Okay, I know we've got hey guys. I know we have a smaller group today, pre-season, but my name's Brenda M. I'm the Director of Programming here at Bookstore One. And I know all of you have been here before, so you know that we have workshops, we have author talks, book signings, all sorts of stuff, live Spanish literary salons. So if you're not already signed up to receive our newsletter, you can do that right downstairs while you're buying the books for today. And before we go any further, I'll just remind everyone to check to make sure that their cell phone is silenced. We're recording the event and we're going to put it online. So for this next hour, I'll be in conversation with our two authors, and then we're going to open it up to audience questions and then wrap up with a book signing. And again, if you haven't already grabbed your copies of the books, they're right downstairs. So let me introduce you to the women that you are here to see today. She's an award-winning author, best known for her Florida Wildlife Heroes mystery thriller series, where danger, romance, and environmental intrigue intertwine. A longtime advocate for both writers and the wild, she brings deep experience in publishing and marketing and is a frequent speaker at conferences across Florida. She has served as president of the National League of American Pen Women's Sarasota branch, is an active member of the Sarasota Fiction Writers, the Florida Authors and Publishers Association, and the Florida Writers Association, and she sits on the board of the Florida Writers Foundation. Through her company, Braden River Consulting, she mentors emerging authors and helps them bring their own stories to life. Her latest book, The Preserve, is out now, so let's give a round of applause to Brenda M. Spalding. So Brenda will be in conversation with her friend and fellow award-winning author, who's also an illustrator, photographer, and travel blogger, who has spent her career celebrating Florida's natural beauty. A former reporter with the New York Times Regional Group and the authentic Florida expert for Visit Florida, Lucy has guided readers through the state's wild and wonderful corners for decades. She's the author of many books, but a couple. Beloved Florida guidebooks, including 50 Great Walks in Florida and Floating in Florida, which I just heard was nominated for an award. She's also written and illustrated the charming children's book, Mary Margaret Manatee, which is actually available in both English and Spanish. And she lives right here with one dog, 2 cats, too many goldfish, and a backyard buzzing with pollinators. A true Floridian if there ever was one. So let's give a round of applause to Lucy Beebe Tobias. I'll pass the mic to you.
Welcome, guys. So I'm going to ask the questions off mic. So first, both of your work celebrates Florida's wild places, but from very different angles. So Brenda through the tension of thrillers, and Lucy through the intimacy of walking and observation. So I'm curious, what first drew each of you to Florida's landscapes as something worth writing about, not just living in?
Go ahead. When I was with the New York Times, I had an opportunity to interview Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Coconut Grove. She was 99 years old at the time, and she talked about the struggle to save the Everglades. And I had a really simple philosophy. If I could find an assignment that was out of the building, I took it. So I would propose, like, let's cover this park, or let's do this natural event, that kind of thing. But when I drove away from her house, it was like a light bulb went on, and I realized I was called to write about undiscovered Florida, and I never realized that before. And it was a calling that when I left the Times, that's what I answered. And about a month after I left the Times, I got my first book contract, 50 Great Walks in Florida, and the editor, before I signed the contract, sent me an email and said, "What is a great walk?" And I had been leading walks for the local hospital, things like that. So it took me about a week to come up with this. A great walk is a short but significant jaunt where you get some exercise, learn new things that are done in time for lunch.
Add it to the dictionary.
Honestly, the bottom line is I'd rather be outside than inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got started.
Mm-hmm. Brenda?
Am I turned on?
I think you are. You just have to have it very close to your mouth. Yep.
Yep, I'm turned on. Yeah. The inspiration for this series came actually from an article I read in a Bradenton paper, from a Bradenton paper on the internet. And I have always been an advocate for the misunderstood creatures. And my first book, The Alligator Dance, was about alligators and alligator poaching. And who poaches alligator eggs? So I did a deep dive and discovered a whole lot of stuff about the right way and the wrong way that these people were going about alligator egg poaching. And that ticked me off into this series. And I was astounded that this crime was basically unknown to outsiders. And I wanted to let people know that this was going on, and as well as give them a good read and entertain them with a good thriller, but let them know that this was being done. And so I just got hooked. I got hooked on discovering little things that people did not know about trafficking Florida's endangered creatures and putting a good story behind it.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Yeah, I have a natural follow-up to that question. Because there is a quiet advocacy in all of your books.
Yes.
And I'm wondering how conscious you are, of which I think your first answer kind of answered that, but how conscious you are of that during the writing process, and how you balance, I guess, educating, but also telling a good story through fiction, through imagination.
Yeah, I like to blend fact and fiction to make a good story without hammering the reader on the head with the facts, but blend them in to make a good story so that they're constantly thinking, you know, what's coming next, you know, and, you know, just dropping the facts in there, and making my characters believable, and drawing them into the, how would they think of a way to help whatever creature it is, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of Florida's chaos is stranger than fiction, so it is an easy entry.
Well, it's like with the turtle thieves, everybody knows about the sea turtles, because that's right up there. You know, you've got the sea turtle watch on the shore and everything, but nobody knows that Florida's imperiled and endangered turtles, freshwater turtles, are being trafficked to Asia for the food and the pet trade in Asia. So that was my next one, and that was from a Port Charlotte newspaper article. And so again, diving deep into that. And so I had to learn how that happened. How did they transport? Who does the transporting? You know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And this event, which I'm sure most of you know, it is part of National Wildlife Refuge Week. And so I wanted to know from each of you, if you have a particular, I'm sure you do, a particular favorite refuge, park, or natural area in Florida that feels personal to you, or somewhere that you find yourself being drawn to write about, even if indirectly.
Yeah, I have one. Well, I have a couple. St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge up in the Panhandle. I'd go there anytime. It was built originally as a series of dikes to hold back floodwater. But the great thing is the top of the dikes are at least 6 to 8 feet wide. So you're walking, let's say wintertime, when the birds come down, like the white pelicans and all that, it's winter in Florida, just like humans. You're walking on top of the dikes looking down at an incredible number of migratory birds. You don't need a bind or, you know, a tall stand or anything. You're there, and they just ignore you. So here you are having these wonderful views of wildlife, and it happens. I would say your best time to go is winter, but what I wanted to show you, if I could get there, is that I walked around taking pictures, of course, because all my stories have photographs. And this photograph is of a tall tree and a little tree, and I imagine that the tall tree is saying to the small tree, "Someday, son, all of this will be yours." There's one other one real quick, and that's the Archie Carr National Wildlife Refuge. It's on the other coast. This is one of my nighttime tours, and you go during nesting season, which she was talking about, with the sea turtles, and they give you like a video and so forth, and you all gather, and they send out scouts on the beach to see if there's a turtle nesting, and if there is, then off we go. No lights, and they use a red light to pinpoint it, and we saw a loggerhead turtle dig the nest. They asked the children come up front, and the children were like lying there right there, watching her lay her eggs. And I'm not ashamed to say this, I started crying. Because not only was it something very ancient, but these children who were watching it, they're the ones that are gonna save the earth. I mean, they've been exposed to something which hopefully will have a lifelong impression. So those are two National Wildlife Refuge. The other thing I love about National Wildlife Refuge is their connectors, like I-75, I-95, these refuges are connecting roads for wildlife, and that's huge. So it's worth celebrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the Big Cypress National Preserve because in my research, it is such a huge preserve, and it has such diversification in it. And our little preserves up here, Minnesota State Park and Osprey State Park, they have a lot of visitors, but the National Preserve, it's more wilderness, and they have the camping and things like that, but they also have the hunting, and it's also the home stamping grounds for the Seminoles and the Mississauga and the Glades people, the Gladesmen, and it is home to these people that for centuries. And even though it wasn't founded until, I think it was 1970 or so, but they have been using this area, you know, almost since the beginning of time. And it's amazing, you know, that they have used this for their ceremonies, for gathering herbs, for hunting and everything. And it is just an amazing area.
And it really, in your book, The Preserve, it really is a character in the book. And
yes.
So I was gonna ask you too, what is your process for capturing a place like Big Cypress in your work?
It's a soul. It has a soul. And if you think of the Seminoles and the Mississauga, they are in the process of trying to keep it for themselves and not let it be exploited. And they are trying, the government is trying to close off part of it to designate it as a wilderness area that would exclude the Seminoles and the Mississauga and the Gladesmen from that area. And I think that would be, you know, devastating, and they are fighting that. And you know, this is my research. This is why I love that area. And for them to lose access to that would be such a shame, because that is their heritage.
Right, of course.
Yes. And I could go on forever.
Yeah, I'm sure you can tell how much you care about it through the book, and you do capture it so beautifully.
I really do.
Yeah, that was one of the first parks that I went to when I moved to Florida, and it is breathtaking. You do feel like you're out there.
Yeah.
So Lucy, your books really invite readers to slow down, I think, right, and to see the state differently, on foot, by boat. You know, you've written about all of it, but through eyes of curiosity instead of consumption that we can be so used to here in Florida. So I'm wondering what you think changes in people when they're able to experience Florida in that way, in the ways that you write about.
I hope they will realize that everything is connected. I can give you an example of an intersection of storytelling and conservation. My son, my oldest son, came to help me with some research on this coast for 50 great walks. And we were at Honeymoon Island, walking along, and an osprey flew overhead, holding a fish with both talons, and he was flapping really hard because he was being pursued by another osprey who wanted that fish. And my son and I are like this, whoa. And this woman walked past us, and she was staring at the path and talking on her cell phone. Now she became part of that story. And I said, leave your cell phone in the car. And I talked about what she missed the whole drama.
Yeah.
But we got it. And the reason that Honeymoon Island is there and works is because they saved all the old trees, and the osprey liked those tall old trees for nests. So if you learn nothing else, you learn that old trees should be left there so that they could become habitat. And once you learn that, I do believe that once you take a walk like that, put your cell phone in the car, and you see things like that, it changes you. And you're not the same. And so when things happened, like when the state wanted to start building hotels on parks, who rose up in protest? The people who had been there. So the first thing you have to do is get on your good walking shoes and get out the door and go to these places. And both Brenda and I have a lot of suggestions.
Yeah, that you do. Yeah. I also wanted to talk a little bit about, because Brenda, you work in like suspense is in all of your books. And I wonder, I do think that I'm sure you agree, that there's something about a book that involves suspense and is ecological that gets you to care about it a bit more. And I wonder how would you say that suspense and the nature, the wildlife, work in tandem in your books?
Yes, there is a build-up that you need to develop when you're writing your story and about nature, that you have to leave, I don't want to say a hook, but at the end of each chapter, you have to leave the reader with a desire to go to the next one, to find out what's going to happen next.
And you have to make them care about it.
You have to make them care about what's going to happen. And I think that innately we do care about nature and what's going on around us. We just don't know. And unless somebody brings it to our attention, we don't know what's going on. We don't know about alligator egg poaching and the devastation that brings. We don't know that the poor old alligator is only going to be grown up for his hide for the fashion industry. We don't know that poor little turtle that's only that big is going to be wrapped up in bubble wrap and sent to Asia for somebody's gift, or that a huge 70, 80 pounds Florida alligator snapping turtle is going to be sent to Asia and will command $70,000 as a wedding gift to somebody, We don't know that stuff unless somebody tells you that stuff.
Right.
And we don't know that there's a black market for poisonous reptiles unless somebody tells you that stuff.
Right. So now you guys are both so knowledgeable. You're very much in it. I mean, you make the face, but you're very much in it, Lucy. So I'm wondering, because you're talking about how you don't know what you don't know almost, right? So how do you decide? We'll start with you, Lucy. How do you decide that a place is worth, I don't want to say worth writing about, but that it might be something that people don't know about when you're already so steeped in it that by now it may seem almost ordinary to you?
Oh, no. Lucy does these fantastic things. She did the labyrinth thing. Yeah. And there are so many labyrinths just in this area that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
That you can walk a labyrinth. Kids don't know what a labyrinth is half the time. Outside of a corn maze at Halloween.
Right.
but there's, you know, you tell them where they are. You tell them where they are.
I think I would phrase it just a little bit differently. I don't know much, but I know how to find answers.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious. I would like to say I'd like to see what's over the next hill, but that's a joke. We're in Florida, so you know, where's the hill? I just want to discover new things, and I figure if I'm having a good time, you'll have a good time. And I'm sensitive to things like when I first started all these walks and stuff. It took me a while to realize that I needed to tell you what the walk was like and what surface you'd be walking on, because maybe you don't want to walk in the forest where there are tree roots. Maybe you would prefer asphalt. So I started adding that, you know, in other walk things people had said what the trail was, but you need to know that. I mean, maybe it's not. And the other thing is, if it's beautiful and it speaks to me, then I want to share it with you. It's not that I know so much. I have a folder of places I've never been, but I want to go. Yeah. You know, so there's still a lot of discoveries out there. And the labyrinth thing, it happened because at church they had a thing for Lent where you could do a spirituality thing, and they took us to St. Boniface on Siesta Key, and we walked the labyrinth. Well, I'd never walked the labyrinth in my life. I didn't even know what it was. That was the year 2017, not that long ago. And so when we were finished, they served us iced tea and cookies, always nice. And this woman stood up and she said, I envision someday there will be a labyrinth trail in Florida. And I sat up like a bird dog. You know, my tail went straight out and my paw went forward like this, because I'd already written guidebooks. And I said, I know how to do this. And for the next year, that's all I did was walk labyrinths. And then I went to see her and I said, this book is all because of you. I've been walking labyrinths all over because you said a labyrinth trail. Oh, she said, you've been called, but you don't understand call. And I was like, well, what is call? She said, there's two parts to call. She said, I've been throwing that line out for years and no one ever answered. The other side of call is response. She said, we're the first person that ever responded. She'd been throwing out the idea of doing a labyrinth trail, but nobody ever took her up on it.
And the other thing is, you're never too old to learn something.
Right, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah, never too old to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, right, of course. Okay, Lucy, I also wanted to ask you, because you've written in so many genres, you know, children's books, guidebooks, memoir, what's something that you learned from one that has helped you with the other?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've learned to show up. And a lot of people will say, I want to write a book, but they don't show up to put in the work. The other thing I've learned is that I have 5 or 6 possible projects, but I don't start a project until it calls me, in essence. And once I feel that I'm called, then I'm ready to put in the work. And the work that I really like best is what Brenda said. I love research. I love going out there and being in there. And no matter what it is, whether it's a children's book, the children's book is like Brenda's book. It's all, you know, Mary Margaret Manatee meets friends along the river, but they're all, the blue heron lives there and the fish live there. And so you're trying to get that environmental thing in there. I think the common theme that runs through that everything is, it's really hard to get my attention because there's so many distractions in life. But once a project speaks to me, I'm there, and I'm willing to put in the work, which means it's like a job, like a full-time job. Brenda will tell you that. While you're going through it and writing it and researching it, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it takes a commitment, and it takes a while for me to, once I'm committed, I'm good. It takes a while to get to that point. And I think that's the commonality that runs through my books. I'm working on a children's book now, because that's what's speaking to me now. The guidebook, Floating in Florida, was last year. This year it's a children's book. So whatever really grabs my attention.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Does it ever? Yeah, of course, that works. Of course.
Yeah. I like the research, and quite often I spend more time researching than I do writing the book.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll agree with
Well,
that.
and in researching it, you have other people involved. It can be more social, and the actual writing of it is a bit more
Yeah, Lucy goes
isolating.
out and does research. I do my research on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you go to the places?
No, I don't.
Interesting.
No,
I never would have
don't.
guessed.
No, I don't. No, I have 6 people live in my house, so no, I don't get out that often. Yeah, no.
Okay. So I also wanted to ask you guys, since obviously both of you are writers who spend a lot of time looking closely at things, and like people patterns, whatever. So I'm wondering what's something that you've noticed lately, maybe within the last week or so, that really stopped you in your tracks, that you took note of and that you filed away, or surprised you, moved you.
Stop you in your tracks.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be slightly political. What stopped me in my tracks was learning that Selby Gardens cut down 16 old growth oak trees
Ooh.
without applying for a permit.
Yeah, I got neighbor on the corner from me cut down 2 oak trees.
Right.
Yeah.
So that led me to question my membership, but it also led me to think about trees. And there's going to be a tree. I write a weekly blog called Wednesday Notes. There's going to be a tree blog in my future. I mean, perhaps we've forgotten. And it's not necessarily that we don't always know. Sometimes it's just we've forgotten how important trees are, how they breathe in bad stuff and they breathe out oxygen. We can't live without them. So maybe I'll go searching for some beautiful trees and take pictures, and then I'll write about trees. But the big thing that happened this week is the shock of finding out that they were cut down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
without
great
permission.
incident. Right.
Right.
So what happens now? Meaning, when something like that happens, where permission wasn't granted, what happens? What now?
What happens? There's a woman out there on Facebook who's really trying to pursue this, but the problem is the deed is done. Okay.
Right.
The trees are gone.
But how do you make sure it doesn't happen again? Right.
Yes, I think that's the purpose now, is to make sure it doesn't happen again. And there is a tree ordinance in place, so people stepping up and showing up at commission meetings and saying, you've got to enforce this. We voted you in so that you would enforce these kinds of things, or maybe make stronger laws. Maybe
or is there a penalty?
Yes, there already was. Everything was in place. There was a plan put in place in 2020 that was supposed to be followed. I can't quote it.
Yeah.
I think my job as a travel blogger, and I think now I'm going to go looking for trees.
Yeah.
And so I can talk about trees, but there are people out there advocating right now to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
What was Selby's motive in cutting down those trees? What was their purpose? Why did they do
They're
that?
putting buildings in. They have a
Oh,
2-year
okay.
building project, and that space was. I kind of imagine Marie Selby turning over in a grave.
Yeah.
Because I think she envisioned when she donated her property that the gardens would be gardens.
Right.
But increasingly the footprint is being turned over to buildings. Most of Selby will be behind fences, and this all happened behind the fences. That's why people didn't know that the trees went down.
Thank you.
I think my days of being a newspaper reporter are over, so I can't be your environmental reporter. But there is a thing called Suncoast Spotlight, where Suncoast Spotlight, you can look it up, former reporters and investigative reporters are writing on a freelance basis for this bank, and I know they're going to attach this. They will go after this subject.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could also write an op-ed.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 that were cut down across the street from me, I think it was last year, somebody cut down a couple trees and I was horrified. And I did do some research, and because they were on private property, I live in a development, they could cut them down. And so I couldn't do anything about it. But it depends on if they're on public land or private land. So I could be mad as hell, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
They owned the trees, not me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what questions does anybody else have? Feel free to ask away. Otherwise, I can keep going.
You have us in captivity.
Yes.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I
I
wanna
love
open-
answering questions.
Open the floor to anybody.
Yes.
What subject would you like to see written about that you're not reading current, I mean, what Florida subjects would you like to see more of from either of us?
Boy, we've got an interesting group here. No questions.
I think red tide. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, red tide. There, it seems like that's something that. I mean, it sounds so ominous, just the name, right? Red tide. But there's so much behind it. It affects so much. I'm interested in.
That is, a lot of that comes from the phosphate runoff from the fertilizing of the grass.
There's a great book that came out
Yeah.
recently about that too.
Yeah, and Lake Okeechobee has a lot to do with that. And the way that they have put 41 across, which has blocked a lot of the natural runoff, and a lot of that. Yeah, that's got a lot to do with it.
You had a question?
Yeah, so I have like books about trees, not that I know anything, but I've grown to love them. But I haven't seen one that really highlights the trees of Florida.
Good point, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Perfect for now.
Good choice.
Yeah, I know.
Internet.
Lucy will be getting in touch with you about a year from now.
Thank you.
I have a huge cypress, bald cypress tree. I think it's a couple yards over, and I don't know exactly who owns this tree. But I hope, not in my lifetime does this tree come down, because the birds are in it and the squirrels are in it. And it loses some of its needles or leaves or whatever they are in the winter time, and then in the spring it comes all back again. And I'm just hoping that no stupid neighbor moves in and takes down my bald cypress tree, because then I probably will have a heart attack.
Wow.
Because I love my bald cypress tree.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you do any gardening at home?
Ooh, do
Florida
they ever?
native plant?
Oh, thank you for
I know,
asking.
there's a book involved.
I know.
Take it away.
I've written several books on gardening. The most recent, about 5 years ago, was The Zen of Florida Gardening, which won Best Outdoor Book for Florida Outdoor Writers Association. I often in my blog will take you in my garden. In fact, if you have my card, if you will send me your email, I will send you a link. For the first time ever, I walked around my garden and did a video. I took you with me. Yeah. And so, yeah, I would say about once every 5 weeks, you're gonna hear what's happening in the garden,
Yeah.
including the bees who decided they were not happy with me being there.
Yeah, and your book that is very popular at the bookstore. What's the name of it? Florida
Well, Florida Gardens Gone Wild.
Yeah, Florida Gardens
Yeah,
Gone
that's
Wild.
one of her favorites.
Yeah.
And they have that here.
Yeah.
That was fun. I just, it's my, I was gonna say it's my sacred space, but it's my de-stressing place.
Yes,
It's
very
where-
much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it's great writing about it too from like a native perspective, like native
Yes.
plants,
Native
pollinators.
plants, rain barrels, I introduce you to pollinators and the idea of a butterfly garden. If you're gonna do that, that means you gotta stop using pesticides, and that's really hard for people to move down here from up north, and they're like, excuse me, we always use pesticides. But this is a different, that was my call, was to tell you how Florida is different and how you can go with the flow, basically buy plants that use less water, and plants that are pollinator friendly, butterfly. If you buy tropical milkweed, the monarchs are gonna come and lay their eggs, and then you're gonna have monarchs in your
I had a
garden.
beetle eat all my,
Her hubby started a garden for her, and now she's got monarchs and all kinds of things, right?
yeah, well, there was a beetle that ate all my milkweed.
Oh, no.
And I planted pentas the
Yes,
other
yes.
day, and somebody came along and ate all the tops of my pentas.
Well, welcome to the real world.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so.
I plant things so that bugs can eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so often you get people who will ask questions about. I'm a Florida Master Gardener. Who will ask questions about. Something is eating my plants, but it's actually the caterpillars. Like it's a good thing. It's a
Right.
host plant, you know.
Yeah.
And but they're looking for ways to to get rid of them, to get rid of the bugs, which are actually going to be butterflies, you know?
I went out with my flashlight at 11 o'clock last night looking for the caterpillar that's eaten my pentas, and I didn't see it.
I don't think it's not a
That's not a,
caterpillar.
yeah, I was
No.
gonna say, that's not.
Caterpillar is not eating your
It's a
pentas.
rabbit.
It's something else. It very well could be rabbits.
Yeah.
You have rabbits. I don't. I have a 6-foot fence. Thank God.
No,
Only
I've got
rabbits.
I've got
get out of
rabbits,
our-
raccoons, possums, everything
Yeah.
comes through my yard.
Yeah, no, it's not a caterpillar. They don't like pentas. Pentas are, butterflies need 2 kinds of, plants. One is nectar plants. So a penta, especially a red penta, is a nectar plant. They will come to it, they'll be attracted to it like French fries, you know, I mean, to them it's food. And then they look around for the milkweed so they can lay their eggs.
Yeah.
Each butterfly has specific host plant that they lay their eggs. So it can't be caterpillars eating your penta, but it could be raccoons. It could be all kinds of things. I would say it's the rabbits.
That's probably
Yeah.
Sounds like a mystery novel.
Yeah.
Do you both,
Yeah.
with your gardening, do you both have very large gardens?
No, I simply have I'm in an older home. I maybe have 1/4 of an acre, and my back garden is fenced, so I'm saying maybe 100 feet by 100 feet. That's it. Yeah, it's a nice back garden. People say, why don't you move into a condo? I'm not giving up that garden. I mean, that's still my life out there. But it's a small backyard. It has significant trees. It has old palm trees, a pine tree, and a big rubber tree. So, and then I just work around that.
I'm in a development, and my son-in-law built me a raised bed along the back fence. And I do the best I can with that, yeah.
Also, one of the chapters in my book, which I'm a big fan of container gardening.
Yeah.
You can have a complete life cycle for butterflies and just in a container, and you can make a container of herb. You want to make pizza, you can go outside and strip your basil and your rosemary.
Yeah, you can make a
and-
specific pizza garden,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
You
that's
grow
it.
oregano, basil.
I just
tomatoes.
recently planted rosemary by the front door. It smells wonderful.
Mhm.
I went to an event in Arcadia last March, something like that. And I bought this special, supposed to be seedless eggplant. I brought it home, bought a 5-gallon pot for it, full of nice compost and everything. Put this plant in it. Looked at it the next day. It was down to a stub like that. Somebody had come on the lanai, through the fences and everything, and ate my eggplant. So I ended up with a stub about that big.
That'll be in the story in the future.
Yeah, it'll be how I shot it and used it for pie.
Did you have a
Somebody
question?
ate my mangoes too, so.
Yeah.
Oh no. Did you have another question? No? Okay, I have one last question, which is, if you could take all of us to one spot in Florida, so it's something you love, or maybe something you want us to understand more, where would you take us and why? Just one spot in Florida.
I would take you down to the Big Cypress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why?
I think that is the most magical place because you can see Florida as it should be seen. Yes, it's
Wild.
It's wild. It's old Florida. It's old Florida. It's the way Florida was before they concreted it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Before all the silly development.
Yeah.
I would take you to Rainbow Springs State Park in Denellen, which is west of Ocala. So you're going north and then a little bit to the east, and there's Denellen. And the reason I do that is it's the headwaters of the Rainbow River, and it's probably the most beautiful place in Florida.
Huh.
And I would suggest that you go look on their website. It's a park, a state park. Go when the azaleas are in bloom. For a long time ago, it was a private attraction, and there were cowboys running around and all that kind of thing. They built huge waterfalls, which are still there, artificial waterfalls. But the real attraction is the headwaters and how beautiful they are. And there was a garden club that tended it for years, and they planted all these azaleas. So azaleas bloom around February. That's the time to show up. And just just be there. I mean, it's old Florida in a way, but I don't think people even think about where rivers start,
Right.
and that river starts right there. So it's beautiful. Go see it.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So we'll now